Welcome to Heart of Europe. Today we dissect the most critical issues and pivotal moments shaping the Russian economic landscape under Western sanctions. I'm your host, Connor Bendix, and today we have an in-depth and enlightening episode lined up for you. In this episode, we'll explore the far-reaching impact of the numerous sanctions imposed by Western nations on Russia. With inflation soaring and interest rates climbing to unprecedented heights, Russia's economic stability is under intense pressure. We'll delve into the current state of Russia's economy, examining key indicators such as inflation, interest rates, food prices, and labor market dynamics. Additionally, we'll discuss the broader implications of these economic challenges for the global economy and the political ramifications within Russia. Stay with us as we navigate the intricate details and wide-ranging consequences of this unfolding economic story. We bring you the unvarnished truths of economic resilience, struggle, and adaptation. Let's get started. As we stand here in July 2024, Russia finds itself under a heavy blanket of sanctions from the European Union, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and many other countries. These sanctions have come in more than 14 different rounds, targeting thousands of individuals and companies. The extent of these measures means that sanctioned entities can no longer engage in the level of business they once did, severely disrupting both their operations and the wider Russian economy. Let's begin by examining the current state of inflation in Russia. Unlike many parts of the world, where inflation is gradually being brought under control thanks to rising interest rates and other fiscal policies, Russia's inflation remains alarmingly high. As of now, Russia's inflation rate is the third highest among the G20 nations, surpassed only by Turkey and Argentina, both of which are experiencing significant economic turmoil. This places Russia in a precarious position, indicating deep-rooted economic challenges. Interest rates in Russia have skyrocketed to an astonishing 16%. To put this in perspective, these rates are drastically higher than those in Western countries. For example, the European Union has even started to lower its rates as inflation levels there have stabilized. In contrast, Russia's high interest rates are a clear sign of its struggles to manage inflation. The Russian central bank has been in a constant battle, increasing rates in a bid to curb rising prices, but the desired effect remains elusive. One of the critical indicators we can look at is food inflation. Food prices have a direct and immediate impact on the population, and in Russia, these prices have been soaring. The sanctions have restricted imports, leading to higher costs for essential goods. This situation is exacerbated by the limited availability of domestically produced alternatives, making everyday life increasingly expensive for Russian citizens. Factory gate prices, which are the prices of goods leaving factories, also provide insight into future inflation trends. Over the past months, these prices have been on an upward trajectory, suggesting that consumer prices will continue to rise. The ripple effect of higher factory gate prices means that we can expect the cost of goods and services to remain high, contributing to ongoing inflationary pressures. Unemployment is another critical area to consider. Russia is currently grappling with a shortage of workers. Demographic shifts, exacerbated by the emigration of young talent and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, have left many sectors struggling to fill positions. This labor shortage is a double-edged sword. While it might keep unemployment figures relatively low, it also hampers economic productivity and growth. To bring these economic issues into perspective, imagine trying to run a business when the cost of raw materials is unpredictable and often prohibitively high. Or consider the average family, whose grocery bills have doubled over the past year. The strain on the Russian populace is palpable, and the economic policies in place seem to offer little respite. Reflecting on the past year, it's evident that Russia's economy has been on a turbulent ride. Inflation figures tell a complex story. In May 2023, the inflation rate was reported at a remarkably low 2.5%. This was surprising given the severe international sanctions. Many questioned the credibility of this figure, and rightly so. By November 2023, inflation had climbed to 7.5%, marking the highest level since February 2023. Over the subsequent months, inflation stabilized at around 7.5% to 8%, only to rise again in May 2024 to 8.3%. Looking back over the past 5 years, the trend in inflation since the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 has been particularly unusual. Initially, inflation surged to 16.7%, peaking at 17.8% in April 2022, driven by the immediate impact of sanctions. Yet, between April 2022 and April 2023, inflation surprisingly declined, dropping to 2.3% by April 2023. This sharp decline raised eyebrows as it came at a time when economic sanctions were tightening, making imports more expensive. Interest rates, too, have had a dramatic trajectory. Before the invasion of Ukraine, rates were at 9.5%. Post-invasion, the Russian central bank raised rates to 20% in a bid to control the skyrocketing inflation. Over the following months, as inflation seemed to recede, the bank reduced rates 6 times, bringing them down to 7.5%. However, from May 2023 onwards, as inflation began to climb again, the central bank had no choice but to hike rates once more, reaching the current level of 16%. When we compare Russia's current interest rates with other G20 nations, the disparity is stark. Only Turkey and Argentina have higher rates, both of which are dealing with severe economic crises. Other countries with double-digit interest rates include Mexico and Brazil, highlighting that Russia's economic challenges are among the most severe globally. To further understand the current economic climate, we need to look at specific sectors. For instance, the energy sector, traditionally a cornerstone of Russia's economy, has faced unprecedented challenges. Sanctions have targeted oil exports, leading to a significant drop in revenue. This loss of income has had a cascading effect on the economy, reducing public spending and investment in infrastructure. Moreover, the agricultural sector is struggling with the dual pressures of rising input costs and limited export opportunities. Fertilizers and machinery, often imported, have become more expensive due to sanctions, leading to lower productivity and higher food prices domestically. Manufacturing and industrial output have also taken a hit. With many Western companies ceasing operations in Russia and the import of crucial components being restricted, production lines have slowed. This not only impacts domestic supply but also reduces the competitiveness of Russian goods on the international market. In terms of foreign direct investment (FDI), Russia has seen a sharp decline. Investors are wary of the political and economic instability, and the sanctions make it difficult to repatriate profits. This drop in FDI further stymies economic growth and technological advancement. On the domestic front, the population is feeling the pinch. Consumer confidence is low, and savings are being eroded by inflation. Many Russians are facing a decreased standard of living, with salaries not keeping pace with the rising cost of goods and services. This economic stress is leading to increased social discontent and putting pressure on the government to find solutions. The political implications of these economic issues cannot be ignored. The government is under pressure to show that it can manage the economy effectively despite the sanctions. However, the limited tools at its disposal, such as high interest rates, are proving insufficient to stabilize the situation. This economic struggle is likely to influence political stability and public support for the current administration. As we look ahead to the next 3 to 6 months, several scenarios could unfold. If the sanctions continue to tighten and no resolution is found in the Ukraine conflict, Russia may face even harsher economic conditions. Inflation could remain high or even increase, further straining the populace. Interest rates may need to remain elevated, slowing economic growth and investment. Alternatively, if some diplomatic progress is made, there could be a partial easing of sanctions. This would provide some relief to the economy, potentially lowering inflation and stabilizing interest rates. However, any recovery would likely be slow, given the extent of the damage already done. To understand the full extent of these impacts, let's first examine inflation in Russia. Unlike the global trend where inflation is showing signs of abating due to heightened interest rates and strategic economic measures, Russia faces a different reality. Inflation in Russia ranks as the third highest among G20 nations, surpassed only by Turkey and Argentina, both of which are grappling with severe economic crises. This alarming position highlights substantial underlying issues within Russia's economy. The current interest rate in Russia stands at 16%, a stark contrast to the rates in Western countries, signifying a struggle to control inflation. Let's take a closer look at food inflation in Russia over the past year. Food inflation serves as a crucial indicator of the economic well-being of a nation's populace. 12 months ago, in May 2023, food prices in Russia were decreasing by nearly 1%. However, this trend reversed in June 2023, leading to a sharp increase in food prices, reaching an 8.2% year-on-year rise by December. This surge stabilized until April 2024, but recent figures indicate that food prices are now rising by 9.1% year-on-year. This level of food inflation is particularly burdensome for the poorest segments of society, who often allocate 70 to 90% of their income to food. Such a significant increase in food prices underscores severe economic distress. Real wage growth, adjusted for inflation, offers insights into whether people are effectively earning more or less compared to the previous year. Over the past 12 months, real wages in Russia have risen considerably. A year ago, real wages had increased by 10.4%, meaning that even after accounting for inflation, people were earning over 10% more than the previous year. Recent figures show an even greater increase, with real wages rising by 12.9% year-on-year, which, when combined with the current inflation rate of 8.3%, indicates a nominal wage increase of more than 20%. This wage growth presents a paradox. On the surface, it appears beneficial for employees, especially in the face of rising food prices. But a deeper examination reveals a more complex issue. Russia is currently experiencing a significant labor shortage, partly due to the war in Ukraine. An estimated 1.2 million people have fled Russia to avoid conscription, and the ongoing conflict has resulted in further workforce depletion. This shortage has led to a wage price spiral, where wages rise sharply due to labor scarcity, driving up prices and, in turn, necessitating further wage increases. This cycle is a hallmark of an economy struggling to maintain balance amidst severe disruptions. The sanctions imposed on Russia have a multifaceted impact on its economy. These restrictions not only disrupt trade and investment, but also lead to structural changes within the economy. For instance, the energy sector, a major revenue source for Russia, has been hit hard. Sanctions targeting oil exports have led to reduced revenue, impacting public spending and infrastructure development. The agricultural sector is under strain due to rising input costs and limited export opportunities. Import restrictions on fertilizers and machinery have led to lower productivity and higher domestic food prices, exacerbating inflation. The manufacturing and industrial sectors are also suffering. With many Western companies ceasing operations in Russia and restricted import of essential components, production has slowed, reducing the competitiveness of Russian goods internationally. The decline in foreign direct investment (FDI) further compounds these issues. Investors are wary of the political and economic instability, and sanctions make it difficult to repatriate profits. This drop in FDI stymies economic growth and technological advancement. On the domestic front, the population feels the economic pinch acutely. Consumer confidence is low, and savings are eroded by inflation. Many Russians face a decreased standard of living, with salaries not keeping pace with the rising cost of goods and services. This economic stress leads to increased social discontent and pressure on the government to find solutions. Politically, the government is under significant pressure to manage the economy effectively despite the sanctions. However, the limited tools at its disposal, such as high interest rates, are proving insufficient to stabilize the situation. This economic struggle likely influences political stability and public support for the current administration. In summary, Russia's economy faces significant challenges due to the sanctions. The high inflation, rising food prices, and labor shortages contribute to a complex and unstable economic environment. The government's ability to navigate these issues will be crucial in determining the future trajectory of the Russian economy. We appreciate your continued interest and support, as we unravel these complex and evolving stories from the heart of Europe. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with others keen to understand the intricacies of Russia's economic challenges under sanctions. Until then, this is Connor Bendix. Stay informed, stay engaged, and as always, keep listening.